So with that, please give a warm welcome to State Representative Charles Key.
Wow, what a crowd. This is great. Appreciate you being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand the supreme law. It is the final say. It defines who has the authority. It determines what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't need a lawyer to interpret it because it is simple and easy to understand. And beyond the Bible, it is the most important writing for the lives of the people it affects. It is the guide to judicious power and control. It is the document founded upon the fundamental principles of truth and honor. And it is the execution of this law that resolves all the current issues of the day. It preserves the proper balance of power and authority, and is known as the Key Family Bill of Rights. Right number one. Mom and Dad Key have the right to declare McDonald's an occasional snack and not a major food group. Right number two, children have the right to the TV remote only after bowl season and after NFL playoffs are over. Right number three, children have the right to monopolize the bathroom only after mom has monopolized the bathroom. Right number four, children have the right to not take a bath only if they choose to exercise their right to not receive their allowance. Right number five, children have the right to get a tattoo only if they want to sleep outside for the rest of their lives. And I think this right, particularly like right number six, children must read the U.S. Constitution and memorize the Bill of Rights if they ever want to do anything with their friends again or have any kind of social life. Right number seven, the immense pain experienced by mom during childbirth gives mom absolute veto power over, well, just about everything. Right number eight, mom and dad Key are always right. Right number nine, if mom and dad are wrong, see right number eight. And finally, right number 10, the 10th Amendment to the Key Family Bill of Rights says, the power is not delegated to the children by the Key Household Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the parents, or reserved to the parents respectively or to their appointees. Now, of course, what we really have here is the Key Household Constitution and Bill of Rights. But if you think about it, the Constitution and your family rules are very similar. It clearly identifies who has the power and who does not have the power. And it specifies what that power is and what it is not. Now, can you imagine what it would be like if your children did whatever they wanted and then began to tell us what to do? Yeah, I know what some of you are thinking. Most people who have children feel like that happens all too often. We have rules for a reason. It reminds me of the guy in the movie Tombstone, my favorite Western, who believed the law was becoming too restrictive in the Old West. After excessive lawlessness and bloodshed, he said, well, we've got to have some laws in this land. Well, of course, we have to have some laws in this land, and we do. Thomas Jefferson said, let no more be heard of confidence in men, but bind him down from mischief with the chains of the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is the most important document in our nation. Not simply because it is one of our founding documents, but because it is the supreme law of the land. It and only it is the supreme law of the land. Not the president, not the Congress, and not the Supreme Court. And the Constitution defines the total scope of federal power, and it's easy to understand. It doesn't need lawyers or Congress or the Supreme Court to interpret it. And to preserve this power and to make it clear, the 10th Amendment was included in the Bill of Rights. The most important part of the entire Constitution is the 10th Amendment, which states, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The federal government was created by the people and the states specifically to be an agent of the states. And we, the people, have not changed or altered that relationship. But today, the states and the people are obviously treated as agents of the federal government and its subordinates. But this is not, of course, the case. We created it. It didn't create us. It acts as if we belong to it, but it actually belongs to us. The Real ID Act is one of the most recent violations of the Constitution. It is another in a long line of constitutional violations that moves toward consolidating more and more power into the hands of the federal government. And this is not good for a free society, because it's widely understood that throughout the history of Western civilization, freedom has come about not because of the dispersal of political power, and not by the dispersal of political power, but not the consolidation of it. Many states have moved to correct this problem by passing or filing nullifying legislation in their state. Oklahoma was one of the first to do this when it passed Senate Bill 464 in 2007, which Senator Connie Johnson is the principal Senate author of. I went to her and I said, please, can I be the House author of this bill? And she graciously said yes. It has been widely reported that the states are in open rebellion, and I think that's an accurate characterization, since approximately about 40 states now have passed or filed legislation opposing Real ID. But meanwhile, the federal government gives lip service to the Constitution, but is still not restrained by it, and seems content to do whatever it can get away with. But state legislators and citizens groups like are here tonight, and citizens all over the country are making plans to take additional actions to correct the constitutional imbalance that we face today. And the 10th Amendment resolution is the line in the sand. It tells the federal government, cease and desist your unconstitutional acts. Get back in your proper constitutional role. Means what it says, or it doesn't mean anything at all. The people are sovereign over their government, or they're just merely serfs. Most Americans believe the former, that we're the sovereigns, not the serfs. President Abraham Lincoln said, we, the people, are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow men who pervert the Constitution. The people in the states are watching, but we're not just watching and waiting. We're taking action. And other state legislators will file 10th Amendment resolution legislation and similar proposals in their states this year. Some of you will remember back in the 70s, a rock group called Steppenwolf. They had a song titled Monster, and it would have been a bigger hit than it was, except that it was such a long song. It was almost 10 minutes long. And it talks about the good and the bad, the virtues and corruptions inevitable in men and our country. And I want to share some of the lyrics with you. Once the religious, the hunted, and weary, chasing the promise of freedom and hope, came to this country to build a new vision far from the reaches of kingdom and pope. Like good Christians, some would burn the witches. Later, some got slaves to gather riches. But still, they came from near and far to seek America by the thousands. Once the ties with the crown had been broken, they moved westward till the railroad linked ocean to ocean. While we bullied, stole, and bought our homeland, we began the slaughter of the red man. But she patiently smiled and bore a child to be their spirit and guiding light. The blue and the gray, they stomped it, they kicked it just like a dog, and when the war was over, they stuffed it just like a hog. And though the past has its share of injustice, kind was the spirit in many a way. But its protectors and friends have been sleeping. Now it's a monster and will not obey. The spirit was freedom and justice, and its keepers seemed generous and kind. Its leaders were supposed to serve the country, but now they won't pay it no mind. Because the people grew fat and got lazy, and now their vote is a meaningless joke. They babble about law and order, but it's all just an echo of what they've been told. Yeah, there's a monster on the loose. It's got our heads into a noose, and it just sits there, watching. Our cities have turned into jungles, and corruption is strangling the land. The police force is watching the people, and the people just can't understand. We don't know how to mind our own business because the whole world's got to be just like us. Now we are fighting a war over there, and no matter who's the winner, we can't pay the cost. Because there's a monster on the loose. It's got our heads into a noose, and it just sits there, watching. And the chorus goes over and over again, a haunting way. It says, America, where are you now? Don't you care about your sons and daughters? Don't you know we need you now? We can't fight alone against the monster. Whether you agree with all or none of the lyrics, they're hauntingly accurate, especially after 38 years. Maybe those old hippies got something right. And I don't believe in bashing America. I'm not a blame America type by any means. I'm very proud of our country. Or putting us down because of things that have happened in the past. But that's not the purpose of sharing these lyrics with you. The point is, there's a monster on the loose. I do not believe, as some Americans do, that America's doomed, that it's inevitable that our country will fail or fall. But I also do not believe in putting a positive spin on something in the name of progress or leadership. Leadership is not ignoring the facts because they're depressing. I know this is often what politicians do because, well, they want to get elected or re-elected. Or sometimes they're doing some deals on the side, maybe, like a David Copperfield act. While they talk about America with feel-good terms like a shining city on a hill, or our best days are ahead of us. I do believe our best days are ahead of us, but we probably have some rocky times ahead too. Leadership is knowing the truth and telling the truth, the good and the bad of it, and doing something about it. Whatever it takes, and not caring who gets the credit. Winston Churchill once said, and I love Winston Churchill, he's very colorful. Men occasionally stumble onto the truth, but most of them pick themselves up and hurry off as if nothing ever happened. I really appreciate you being here today. And although many of you are already plugged into some of the groups who have sponsored this event, I would encourage you to do that, or plug into all of them if you can. Work with other organizations as much as you can that are fighting for freedom. Don't get bogged down or short-sighted just because we don't agree on everything. Find and make allies. Recruit others, but don't waste time on those who aren't ready. You know, like a brother-in-law or something like that. Or they just won't help us return to the Constitution. We've all stumbled over the truth from time to time and then hurried off as if nothing happened. They will join us in time. But don't forget who our real enemy is and stay focused on the goal. Move on to the next person and the next person and the next person. But above all, stay positive because we will win. That's the way it always is with the truth. We will win. Finally, I want to tell you one more Churchill story. I like Churchill. I don't agree with that everything. But who does? Churchill often said that he would never say when he gave a speech, he would never say, "It gives me great pleasure to speak with you today." He said, because there are only a few things in life that give me great pleasure, and public speaking is not one of them. But Churchill was a member of a speaking club, probably like Toastmasters or something like that. And the group would meet, and they had two top hats. In one of the top hats, they had all the members' names, on a piece of paper. In the other top hat, they had topics on different pieces of paper. So they would reach into one hat, and they would pick out a member. One day, they picked out Winston Churchill. Reached into the topic hat, pulled out the topic. It was sex. Churchill slowly stood up, and he said, "It gives me great pleasure." And he said that. It's one of my greatest pleasures to be with people like you. I count you as my friends, and it's an honor for me to know you, consider you my family, and to stand up and fight for freedom and fight for our country. And I thank you for being here.